welcome to another episode of the Talent Transformation Podcast. Today we have Andrew Denon, Head of Volume Recruitment at Emirates. Andrew, how are you?
I'm great. Always living the dream, Dimitri.
Good to have you here. So you work for a company that has a pretty big brand. It helps to have large airplanes with your name written across it, flying all around the world. Why don't you give me a little background on yourself? How did you end up at Emirates, and what kind of things did you do before you got there?
Yeah, I've had a double life. So I started off in financial markets, trading derivatives, options, a technical analyst. So I studied the likes of the greats of Elliott Wave and Gann and Fibonacci. Then applied it to my trading models. I was one of those early adopters in the start of the 90s that started writing programs to trade markets. And so I did that for a period of time around the world, then had a major life event and decided that beating people up for a living and for money wasn't for me anymore. Looked for a new venture and ended up in talent acquisition. Loved it, never looked back. And the last 20 years I've worked around the world, from contingent to search to RPO to in-house, but predominantly based around building systems and models to take advantage of the workforce.
Yeah, so that's interesting because in my various discussions, I've really noticed that the workforce in human resources today has very different backgrounds than human resources of 20 years ago.
Yeah, I would not be selected 20 years ago. They just wouldn't have picked me up.
No, they would have been afraid of you.
They were, as it was at the start.
There
was a different lens. There's always the human touch, and it's very important to me. But I came in almost as a commodity view. These were boxes, and everyone had boxes within them, and we needed to look at them that way and then put them in the right places.
Interesting.
It scared a lot of them early on. But then,
it would. But I think that right now you're seeing the benefit of that in a lot of organizations, that the HR people really have diversified experiences and skill sets, and they're bringing new ideas to the table, which is good for us from a technology perspective. Because you know, we don't hang our hat on benefits administration. We hang it on agility. And so it helps to have people that are, just more apt to think out of the box, be agile, try some new things. We can see more people from different business lines of the company coming into HR as well. I think it's also just over the last decade or so, the idea of talent has just fine-tuned a little bit. There's a stronger connection between talent and success of the company.
Absolutely.
Than there was 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I think, it was never really in the discussions at the beginning of anything. And we built projects around assets, infrastructure. Whereas now, in the last decade especially, people are the requirement to deliver. So
it's people and knowledge.
So we've had to change that kind of concept and take it to the top level to make sure that they engage and involve HR into it. Otherwise, the success would not be there. And
so when you decided to try talent acquisition, what was the reason you gave them when you got to the door and they said, "Well, why are you here? Why do you want this job?"
I'd spent, almost 2 decades just making money for people that I never knew. And the life event was a big hit for me. I lost someone very young, early into their life with me. So I wanted to do something good for.
So it really was a life-changing idea.
I was standing on the tarmac in Kuwait, freezing actually, because it was the middle of winter and the winds were coming off the Euphrates from Iraq, and I just went, this is not the place for me anymore. I need to go do something good in the world for my life. And I wanted to turn it to people. And really what I knew, I went into financial markets and banking recruitment because that's what I knew.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
So I connected the dots between the requirements and the build and the growth to the people that were there or were potentially there. So
Yeah.
that link made sense to me.
And talent acquisition is just by nature very connected to the business because you're serving the business in a very strategic way.
Yeah, exactly.
So it helps if you're a technical recruiter. It helps if you've been in a software company before.
Yep.
Obviously, you have a better chance at understanding, what your software company managers are experiencing.
That's right.
So you get in this journey then inside of talent acquisition. And was that straight to Emirates or did you go to other places?
I went everywhere.
Okay.
I started in New Zealand in contingent. They didn't know what to do with me half the time. I came up to the Middle East into executive search, into DIFC just before 2008.
Right.
So investment banking, recruitment, just as that happened, was difficult.
Right.
So I moved down to Abu Dhabi. The government picked me up within the audit authority. I did a lot of work around the government organisations. When there was a problem, I would go and clean it up and do the hiring that was required. Did a little stint down into Hong Kong, running an RPO, the largest RPO in Asia Pacific.
Okay.
Came back to Abu Dhabi, had some kids.
A lot of Middle East.
I love the Middle East. It's a phenomenal environment. If you're a entrepreneurial, innovative, looking for pushing the boundaries, the Middle East isn't, you couldn't find a better place. I went back to New Zealand for a period of time through COVID, and then Emirates gave me the opportunity of a lifetime, and I just couldn't say no. It was like you say, the brand is amazing, the people are incredible. The vision is...
They're moving.
Yeah.
All the Middle East is moving. They're doing new things every year.
And talent acquisition at the moment, to have visionaries guiding you and encouraging you, like I have with my leadership, is all you need, because that's going to be the difference in the next decade.
And it's a lot of talent acquisition because those are not places with large populations.
No.
So you're basically bringing people in from all over the world.
Yep.
You're kind of in the center of the crossroads there between, at least Europe and Asia, which is, Asia's an economic engine in itself. So you're bringing people into the Middle East, to Emirates, but your role in Emirates has evolved. Now you're specifically focusing on a high volume. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? What is high volume to Emirates? Because obviously you're not running a retail outlet.
No. I mean, we have a certain level, customer service and contact center. It's incredibly busy as always as we grow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to that. Then there's operators and ground staff that, as we continue to increase planes and data through logistics and that there's a requirement for bodies.
Right.
And quality, and I mean, what we're dealing with on a daily basis, you don't get it wrong. So you have to have quality there. So we have the great Meatloaf, paradigm of time, quality, and quantity. You can only have 2 out of 3, and my job is to bring the third closer than the second. So we work a lot around AI. We have for a while now. To improve our time to deliver, and then also that kicks into your quality.
Right.
The great thing with Emirates is the brand attracts.
Yeah.
So we do get people. We get over 3 million applicants a year.
How many?
3 million.
3 million applicants a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a high number. Yeah.
Yeah. But to get through that.
Yeah.
And to deliver that to our business is a difficult game, no matter where you are. So you have to be smarter, you have to be faster, and you have to know your business.
Yeah, I think high volume is just the most challenging. Although, you mentioned AI, and I do think that AI probably has the most to add.
Yep.
Within talent acquisition in the high volume area.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's where you've got a real opportunity. But I think we were talking about this before, that, disruption creates opportunity and risk, and there are winners and losers.
Yes.
And how are you thinking about that? I mean, I know you're thinking about it, but go a little deeper.
Yeah, well, it's making the right choices at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's critical. For me, it goes back to the fundamentals of data. So what we fortunately get with volume and with that amount of applicants is that data, and how we dissect that and how we use AI around that to target what we need to do and where we're looking for now, but what we're looking for in the future gives us that competitive advantage. So it's a self-fulfilling concept in the sense you have to be on top of it. You have to be looking for that next move. But if you're not in it already, the potential is you'll never catch up. And I think that's probably one of the things that keeps me awake at night. We're just not, we just have to be in front. So we have to continuously use our poor talent in the correct way. And ensure that the data quality is there so that we're given the opportunity for the AI to make the right decisions for us.
Exactly. It predicts much better when it has better data.
Absolutely.
And so I want to go a couple of directions with that. First of all, you're talking about data can be used in lots of different ways, but one of the things that you're doing is you're actually recruiting from all over the world, right?
We have 170 nationalities in our organization already. It's phenomenal.
Right. So that scope is very broad just from a talent acquisition perspective. Lots of people say, well, I'm working North America. I can take a few candidates from somewhere else in the world. But, I get on an Emirates flight and I talk, because you have the bar upstairs.
That's fantastic.
You go to the bar and you have the conversation with the Emirates bartender. Every time they're from some other country. They're from Romania. They're from, Kazakhstan. They're from Thailand. And it's really within that one crew, it's like 25 people in 25 different countries. So data is obviously very important. When you have a very high domain from which to draw, it's like you first think, I have more choice, but then you realize that you have no, it's too much information. Like, where do you go?
Where do you balance it?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Because you could wander forever in the universe of talent.
And then, again, you need that data to bring it back to what works, what's best for you, what has been successful in the past. Where do you target that? Where do you build from? So you get the broader aspect of not just talent acquisition, but you go into talent management and things like that. That really you have to bring that full circle back to again go back out to the external market.
Where have we been successful? So that we can point ourselves in the direction that most likely will lead to success. And AI of course, has a lot of promise there, because AI is very good at looking at large sets of data and finding patterns. Humans can find patterns too, but not at the scale that AI can. It's finding patterns that we've never been able to discern.
And we just don't have that time to be able to do that. We can't just physically drop it on a boardroom table and go, right, let's have a look at these. It just is not available there at the moment. So AI will give us that capability, and it'll give us those nuggets as well, those things that perhaps we've just got a little bit more information than anybody else. So that gives us that signal to, you need to go look there. For these reasons. Then this will be the way you attract them, because this is how you've been successful previously in attracting that. So.
Let's go back a little bit to what you said about what keeps you up at night, because I think one of the messages I've been putting out is that it's okay to be in a slight state of confusion during this technical leap into AI, which is going to go on for, it's going to be a couple of years before the dust settles.
Absolutely.
And I think you said it well. You said it's keeping you up at night, but it's what it is. It's a period of time when you don't have all the answers. Things are changing relatively quickly, and you need to stay flexible in your approach to what you do.
Absolutely. I mean, the great thing about what's happening within talent acquisition, it's probably happening more in TA than it is in any other part of HR, is that change. And it's incredibly exciting what it's doing. What we, I think, as a community made a few mistakes about in the last decade or so is we processed everything out of TA. We lost the fun. We lost the sparkle, the interest, the curiosity out of TA. And what AI has given us is that ability to be bring smart people back into the conversation.
Yeah.
And to look at it and to go, okay, this is pretty exciting. This is pretty cool.
Right.
Where can we take that? So, but again, you've got to be able to have the confidence, and again, fortunate with my leadership to make mistakes.
Right.
And we will, and we will. There's no doubt about it. None of us will get this right.
Yeah, it's unavoidable.
Yeah. Right. I think having a idea and a model is great, but everyone's got a plan till you get hit in the face, as Mike Tyson would say.
Yeah.
So reduce the risks.
Right.
Have some idea, but take a punt.
Here. Yeah. Yeah. You have to throw a little. There's a little bit of throwing it at the wall.
Yeah.
But you have to recognize that you're throwing it at the wall. And then there's a little bit of time where you spend, sort of starting to architect a more complete vision.
Yeah.
You recognize that, okay, there's no imperative to have a complete vision right now. Other people don't have it yet. Look, Google drove, a lot of the most recent innovation with their transformer model. They were sitting there trying to figure out how to make their translation app better.
Yeah.
They weren't thinking that what they came up with was going to fundamentally change their entire business. But when they came out with the attention model paper in, I think it was 2017 or so, attention is all you need. When they came out with that, it really was sort of groundbreaking.
Yeah, changed the business.
And it's 5 years, 6 years later, they're still looking back at it and trying to figure out how is that going to change their business.
Yep.
And they don't have it. I mean, maybe they do have an answer. We don't know yet. I'm sure they're tossing it around. So you can be very much on the vanguard and still not have an answer in terms of the disruption and how it affects you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have a model. I've had a model I've been working on for, 8 to 10 years. And it was based around when I really got into in-house within the UAE and how I could build a model around bringing our Emiratis into talent acquisition and really using their skill sets to take it forward. And I have a vision of where I would like recruitment to be or talent acquisition to be in a mature model.
Right.
But a lot of the parts aren't there.
Right.
And they won't be there for a while yet. We'll get some good ideas coming through, and we are seeing them come through step by step. But there's some stuff there too that you go, really, guys.
Right.
There'll be the car salesman. They'll come in and they'll go. And you've just got to be cautious with that.
You do, yes. There's some uses that people are claiming to have that it can't really work that way yet.
No,
right,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So get the fundamentals right again.
Right.
Add to them.
Yeah.
Build the model. Ground up. Be sure. Test, trial. Sandbox, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But get smart people in to look at it with you.
Yeah.
That's my key is I ask a lot of smart people what they think. And would they be part of this? And would they go through this process? Would they enjoy that? Would this be something that if they were hiring someone they would want to see?
Yeah.
Would they understand that would make a difference in what they hire and how they turn into successful employees?
Right.
And then I look at it again and go, okay.
Yeah.
We'll give it a go.
Right.
And it's still only a few that will do that at the moment.
Right.
I think the organic build will come from a certain level of vendors that will give us a play for the long term.
Yeah.
Not just very sharp, short segments into it and go, there you go, it's solved.
Yeah.
It won't work that way. It won't work with multiple generations the way we have them now as well. What will happen for one will not happen for the others. How you and I came through our hiring processes are definitely not what my young children, your children will go through, and they won't accept that.
No, they won't. And I honestly, I couldn't tell them. I mean, my youngest is 15, so I couldn't tell her when she's 25, what that's going to be like. So, even though I'm in the business, I still say, well, let's talk about what it's going to be like 3 years from now, but I really can't get there yet on 10 years. It's too far out.
It is.
It's too many things changing.
Yeah.
And if you asked me in 2010, I think I would have said, 2020, this is basically what it's going to be like. But by 2018, I started saying, well, let's pull that back a little bit.
Yeah, and I wrote my initial paper for the model 2016, I think it was. We're probably 30% there now. Yeah. I think we'll get there, but some of them are no-brainers. Everyone's using them now, but there's still a bit to come. But it will come, I definitely believe. Yeah. And it's a matter of how we harness it and how our people within talent acquisition skill themselves to use it.
Yeah.
And that's the next big thing, I think, is the tech is there, but where are the people?
Yeah, well, so we talked about, the fact that the technology is changing, the people that do talent acquisition is transforming as well. It's going to continue to transform.
Yep.
Okay. As talent acquisition gets more and more tightly coupled to the business and business outcome.
Yep.
It just invariably becomes something then that is, has a very specific and, mix over time that gets tuned for success. Let's talk a little bit about the technology, because you are doing, everybody is in a digital transformation. That's obvious. Obviously, most digital transformations took off before AI was a big factor. Yep. Where are you in your digital transformation right now in Emirates? I mean, is it very far along, early stage?
I think we're regenerative at the moment. We're just beginning again. I think we've all realised that we've done very well out of it so far. But as the company grows and the growth plans, that we need to get better, smarter, and faster. So the ATS onboarding and CRM build is probably the beginning of the journey.
Okay.
Of this next one.
Right.
So it's very exciting. The approach has been a little bit more collaborative. So I'm in there as a business lead, with a tech background as well. So that brings everything together and has that overall picture in mind of how this should look. And then we have the other areas: product, IT, HR tech, the business itself, the line coming together.
Yeah, you have to bring all of those together.
And you just can't afford not to, because if you lose a year or two building something that's obsolete straight away, then you're 4 years behind and it's over.
Yeah,
your competitors have run past you, and what do you do? So it's quite, it's inspiring for me to see that coming out of the leadership of Emirates. They really have thought about this, and they're going, we need to be on our top form. And we have everybody at the table on a full-time basis, not brought in every now and then. And we need someone there that can see it, that can bring it back together, but still have that vision in the head that it gets to execution.
Yeah. Well, it's a business evolution.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes some companies sort of launch a digital transformation that is very isolated in the IT department, because a lot of digital transformation started with this objective of, getting to the cloud, for example.
Yes.
Getting to the cloud has nothing to do with the business, except for maybe cost and operating risk in IT.
Yeah.
We have these machines, we have people running around in our data centers. If we go to the cloud, the data center will be standardized, that type of thing. But that was very specific, I think, to the technical organization dealing with its own issues.
That's right.
But those were the start. That's mostly where digital transformation started.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be a constant probably forever now, I think, just the way the world's working and striving to be better. It will be just that is the constant. But it's got to be back to the business. What about me?
Right.
What do I get out of this?
Yeah.
I'm not going to I can see it, I can hear it, but I'm not going to change without a reason.
Right.
So give me the reason.
Yeah.
So that you have to, again, be engaged with them. They will give you more insights and better ideas than probably anybody else will. It's their pain points that really are
that are essential.
Yeah, that will make the changes correct and get the buy-in and get the engagement and make the thing work.
Right.
I keep telling my team, it's not worth me building you a Ferrari if everyone's just going to drive. You used to drive in a Toyota Corolla.
Right.
It just won't work.
Yeah.
So I need to train you to drive a Ferrari. I need to understand, can you use a stick shift?
Yeah.
What will it make this? Are your gears on the left, right, everyone's different. So how do I make that work for everybody?
Right.
And Emirates as an international company, we have to look at it as a global view as well.
Right.
What are my people going to be thinking about in these areas, these countries over a period of time? What does that mean to them? How do I relate that back to head office? How do we make this work for everybody?
Right.
And there's got to be give or take. But the only way to get to that is that business being involved in it and saying, yeah, we get it. We understand it.
Right.
We need this, but we get that this is what we can have now. But put this out there, Andrew, make sure that this is in the radar and constant in your thought process as we go forward.
Yeah. 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 I've noticed that there's a very tight interaction between the IT people in the business here at Emirates.
Yeah.
I really see them literally almost right together in lockstep.
Yeah.
I can't say that I see that across, the industry. There's a lot of disassociation. There's
Absolutely.
a lot of separate objectives. There's a little bit of panic.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some dogma. Okay. In some places that I think, holds people and companies back.
Yeah.
So, it's not like everybody's going to get digital transformation right. It's not like everybody that even is doing well in that necessarily gets a lot of impact out of AI. It could be just a nominal impact because of the way you approach it. So I think it's going to be, for the next couple of years, as you said, it's going to be very interesting to see how this sort of shakes out.
Yeah. It can't be, everyone can't win this.
No,
it's not.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So, let's figure out how to balance everything and just end up, we know that there's going to be a right and a wrong side of this.
Yes.
And we just need to be on that right side.
That's it. Yeah. Well, you'll work through the pack.
Yeah.
Like you say, you don't always want to be the furthest out of the water, when the shark's around. You just got to be there, work your way through it, quality counts.
Yeah.
Then move your way into it. And that's how, we saw it in the markets as well, and definitely in the internet. That was just smart will make the difference.
Yeah.
And I measure it on how many hours I sleep at night. As it gets less, then I do get more worried. Then it'll swing back around, and I'm okay.
Yeah.
Away we go again.
I think I've had to go back and do some studying.
Yep.
Which,
doing a lot.
As you get older, you help your kids study, but you recognize that you're not studying like they're studying. You're not sitting there and learning all new things all day. Yeah. And you do have to kind of go back, double back in, and get back down into, I found myself looking at, statistical theory again, because I was like, okay, wait a minute, how do these models really work? And, trying to get sort of like back to understanding some of the mathematics. It wasn't a complete black box, reading papers. I'm in the software business, so we have to develop it. We have, of course, now a whole group of PhDs doing research around it. I think I got involved in TensorFlow. We started using TensorFlow about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was before there were general language models, and we were building our own language models. And then the general models came out, and we said, oh, well, they're better than our models.
Fantastic, yeah.
But then a few years on from using the general models, we also realized that general models use a lot of energy.
They do,
that sometimes it's better to have a very specific model.
Yep.
And fortunately, we had already been building specific models. So we were okay building new little models. And so now we recognize that there's a use for big models and there's a use for little models.
Absolutely. There will be a pyramid process to that for sure.
Yeah.
As specialisms kick in,
right,
you'll need them. You'll have to have them. So I think it's critical that continues to grow. I think if you sit there and look at the big pools and go, that's where we're going to sit, like you say, the energy behind that, it's not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
It just won't happen.
Right.
And you'll get questioned. But again, you'll be sitting again in a pool, you'll become generic. You'll need to specialize back down into certain areas and certain things that make that quicker decision and understanding and provide what you need provided. Again, back to data, back to understanding and delivering on the key points, and understanding what those key points are will make the difference.
Right.
Right. 80% will be generic. It'll be in the large pools, but your 20% that will make the difference.
Will make the difference. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Seeking out that competitive advantage. We're working on it as a software company, obviously, with domain-specific models, the ability to use multiple models and sequences and different things like that. Our customers are looking at it and figuring out, well, how do I get a lot of user-assisted AI out to users in the tasks that are really important for them? And where do I find the places where I get, a really big hit, and not focus so much on the places where the hit's not really, it's not really big. And for us, it's, you can do a lot of things with AI, but some of it will just be a commodity.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get caught,
and that's
producing the commodity.
Yeah.
You have to produce the value-added thing. For us, a lot of that is HR specific, of course. We care about very specific things that a lot of the AI community is less concerned about. What's the next job? If you know what the job is for somebody, you start by saying, well, let's put in front of a candidate a job similar to the job they have. And then you think about recruiting and you realize that people don't want the job they have.
Yeah, and
they want the next job, better job than the job they have.
And HR have been very singular in that view. It's always been, you've got a direct vertical in your career. And what's opened up is within the skill discussion is now, I call them train tracks.
Right.
Your ability to get to Grand Central is multiple.
Yeah.
You've just got to understand what do you pick up along those tracks, which way you go to get you there. But you could go 8 different ways, then come back into 2 different, stations before you hit Grand Central.
Right.
But the ability there is to be able to do that now. And with the machines behind it, you're able to understand it and you're able to deliver that out to the market and to your internal employees. That's going to be the difference. It really is. It's, I'm sitting here in 100,000, employee environment. How do I get there?
Right.
When there's 40, 50, 100, 200, 1,000 people in the same vertical, how do I get there? A smart person would start going, where are the skill sets? Where do I learn those that I can get them going that way?
Right.
Going that way to get there.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the difference. But again, it will come back to how you approach the data, how you offer that out to the employee,
right,
and how they take it and run with it. So bringing that all together, it'll be a certain amount of generic, certain amount of specifics that will have to be combined to give you that answer.
Right. And the patterns there now are just going to be much harder to recognize.
Yes.
25 years ago, you went into HR, you stayed in HR for 25 years, and everybody knew the ladder. And now you have people coming from all different places into HR. And that's making HR very, very different.
Yeah.
And of course, in the line, you're seeing the same thing, right? So this throttling down into more core experiences around skills is really going to reshape every organization. And this is what's going to affect our children, for example, because you can say to them, well, you may do this for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then you may change and do something else. The question really is, what did you learn in those 5 years? That allows you to have a larger set of opportunities.
That's right.
At some point.
Yeah. I mean, what are your core strengths?
Yeah.
How do they adapt to what you want to do now? What will you add to that as you go through your journey to where you go next? And then that's the great thing about these generations and the next generations is, they won't be stuck in a box. It'll be.
No. And they won't stay if they're stuck in a box.
They won't.
We see that
now.
now.
They won't accept it.
Right. You can't retain people without a good internal mobility program anymore because the younger generation just expects to be given some very different challenge after 3 or 4 years. And now the performance review process is much more agile because people are moving around, and you need to be better at performance review, and you need to be better at setting expectations, because if you are going to move to 3 different jobs over 10 years, we do have to have a set of expectations in that role, even though you're coming with core skills. And then to continue your mobility journey in the organization, we do need the data about how you performed in each one of those
That's correct, yeah.
roles that you played a role, that you participated in or took. So, the talent acquisition, I would say talent management is starting to look a lot more like talent acquisition.
It
Let's
is.
put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's always been in the loop, but I think, the wave is starting to move towards talent acquisition and how that is managed and how it's portrayed out to the available talent itself is becoming more of a talent acquisition mindset.
Right.
And the approach and the speed and the skill sets and the balance of what it really means to you is changing that way.
Yeah.
I think talent acquisition's always been that little brother in the corner playing on their Game Boy.
The basement.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they got moved into the garage and they built a computer and all of a sudden they're running the world.
Right. Yeah.
Talent acquisition has always been that baby brother, but all of a sudden with the introduction of so much intelligence and AI into what it does, it's going to change. It's going to be very dominant within that environment.
Yeah, I think so.
It will be on the front foot. And a bigger discussion with my leadership is how do we ensure that we continue that balance with the other areas, and the strategic advisors, the center of excellences, expertise have to be able to be included, collaborate with that, but understand the change, and bring that through. It's a fascinating environment, HR at the moment.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how you progress through your plan and how your vision evolves.
I'm really excited. I've been waiting for a while for the tech to catch up.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good now because things are exciting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and I think people see it and see the real potential of talent acquisition.
Yeah,
and they're putting the people in the right places and giving them the ownership to go do it,
the agency to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So we're going to see a lot of interesting things. I'd like to hear more about what you're doing. I'd love to have you back.
Absolutely.
When a little more AI is in play and being used, and talk to you about some of the patterns that you are picking up in your organization. It's been a real pleasure having you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Dimitri.